Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the New Haven colony, watching the sunrise paint the alien sky in shades of purple and gold. The twin moons were still visible in the morning light, hanging like silver coins above the distant mountains. He had been the colony commander for 3 years now, and every morning still felt like a miracle. The colony stretched out below him, a growing city of metal and concrete that housed 12,000 human souls. Families walked to work along. Clean streets. Children played in parks filled with earth plants that had learned to grow in alien soil. The mining stations hummed with activity as they pulled precious metals from the ground. New Haven was more than just a colony. It was home. Beautiful morning, isn't it? Dr. Lisa Carter joined him at the window. She was the colony's chief scientist, a woman who had given up a comfortable life on Earth to study the strange crystals they had found beneath this world. "Every morning is beautiful here," Jake replied. "Hard to believe we've been here 8 years already," Lisa nodded. "The quantum crystals we found last month are unlike anything we've seen before. They could power our ships for decades. Maybe centuries." Jake smiled. "Earth will be happy to hear that. We're not just surviving out here anymore. We're thriving." Neither of them knew that their peaceful morning was about to end forever. The first sign of trouble came from this communication center. A young technician named Bobby Chun burst through the doors of the command center, his face pale with fear. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this," Bobby said, his voice shaking. "There are ships coming." Jake followed Bobby to the main screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of massive ships were dropping out of hyperspace, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. They were unlike any human vessels Jake had ever seen. These ships were built for war, covered in weapons and armor that gleamed with menace. "How many?" Jake asked. 57 confirmed, Bobby replied. "More are still arriving." The ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation around the planet. They were waiting for something. Jake had the terrible feeling he knew what it was. Answer came 15 minutes later. The main communication system crackled to life, and a voice filled the command center. It was deep and harsh, speaking in heavily accented English. "Humans of New Haven, I am War Prime Keth 4 of the Zephyrian Empire. You have 72 hours to evacuate this planet. Take only what you can carry. Leave everything else behind." Jake grabbed the microphone. "This is Commander Morrison. New Haven is a human colony. We have legal claim to this world under galactic law." A sound like grinding metal came through the speakers. It might have been laughter. "Galactic law?" the alien voice said. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We are the law. You have 72 hours. Any humans remaining after that time will be destroyed." The communication went dead. Jake stared at the screen, watching the alien ships hover in space like vultures. His mind raced through the possibilities. They could try to fight, but what chance did they have? They could try to negotiate, but the alien had made it clear that talking was over. Or they could run. "Sir?" Bobby was looking at him with wide eyes. "What do we do?" Jake looked around the command center. Dr. Carter was studying the alien ships. On her tablet, Chief Engineer Ben Rodriguez had arrived and was checking the colony's defense systems. Security Chief Amy Walsh was already on her radio, coordinating with her officers. "Call an emergency meeting," Jake said. "All department heads, 1 hour." The next hour was the longest of Jake's life. He stood in his office, looking out at the colony that had become his world. Families were already packing their belongings. Some were crying. Others were angry. A few seemed determined to fight. The meeting was held in the colony's main conference room. Jake looked around the table at the people who had helped build New Haven from nothing. Dr. Carter sat to his right, her tablet showing data about the alien ships. Ben Rodriguez drummed his fingers nervously on the table. Amy Walsh looked like she was already planning a battle. Dr. Carl Hughes, the colony's chief, medical officer, stared at his hands. Options, Jake said simply. We could evacuate, Dr. Hughes said quietly. Save as many lives as possible. Where would we go? Ben asked. The transport ships can't carry everyone. And even if they could, where would we run to? Amy leaned forward. We have some defensive weapons. Mining lasers, construction equipment we could modify. It's not much, but it's something. Against 57 warships? Dr. Hughes shook his head. It would be suicide. Dr. Carter had been quiet during the discussion. Now she spoke up. There's something you need to know about those crystals we found. Everyone turned to look at her. They're not just valuable for power, she continued. They're incredibly unstable when overloaded. One small crystal could level a city block. The deposits we found could power a small sun, or destroy one, Ben said quietly. The aliens want this planet for the crystals, Dr. Carter said. If we leave, they'll use them to power their war machine. They'll conquer more worlds, destroy more civilizations. Jake felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. They could run and live, knowing they had given the aliens the weapons to destroy others. Or they could stay and fight, knowing they would probably die. How long do we have? Amy asked. 72 hours, Jake replied. Then we use every minute, Ben said. If we're going to fight, we need to be ready. Dr. Hughes looked up from his hands. You're all talking about fighting an empire that has conquered dozens of worlds. They've never been defeated. Then maybe it's time someone tried, Amy said. Jake stood up. I'm not ordering anyone to stay. Anyone who wants to leave can take the transport ships. But I'm staying. New Haven is my home. One by one, the others stood up too. I'm staying, Dr. Carter said. Those crystals are too dangerous to leave in their hands. I'm staying, Ben said. This colony is my life's work. I'm staying, Amy said. Someone has to keep you all alive. Dr. Hughes was the last to stand. I'm staying too. If we're going to do this, we'll need medical support. Jake looked around the table at his friends, his family. They were going to fight an impossible battle against an enemy that had never been defeated. They were probably going to die, but they were going to stand their ground. Then let's get to work, Jake said. We have 72 hours to turn a mining colony into a fortress. Outside, the alien ships waited in the darkness of space. Inside the colony, 12,000 humans began preparing for war. They had never fought a battle like this before. They had never faced odds like this before. But they were human. And humans, Jake was beginning to realize, were very good at doing the impossible. The countdown had begun. 72 hours to prepare. 72 hours to live. 72 hours to prove that sometimes the best defense is refusing to run away. The next morning, New Haven looked like a different world. Instead of people running away, they were running toward danger. Workers carried tools and weapons through the streets. Children helped their parents move supplies to underground shelters. The colony that had been built for peace was transforming itself for war. Now Jake stood in the main square, watching his people work. A group of miners was loading explosives onto a truck. Nearby, teachers were showing teenagers how to use the communication equipment. Even the youngest adults were learning to fight. Commander, Amy Walsh approached him, her arms full of building plans. We need to talk about defense positions. They walked to the colony's command center, which was now buzzing with activity. Maps covered every wall. People were marking important buildings and planning escape routes. The peaceful office had become a war room. Ben Rodriguez was bent over a large table, studying the colony's layout. We can turn the mining tunnels into a defensive network, he said without looking up. They run under the entire colony. The aliens won't be able to track us underground. Dr. Carter joined them, carrying a box of the quantum crystals they had. Discovered. I've been studying these all night, she said. If we can figure out how to control the explosions, we could have real weapons. How real? Jake asked. Real enough to hurt their ships, she replied. But the explosions would damage our own buildings, too. Amy spread her maps on the table. Then we need to choose which buildings we can afford to lose. The residential areas are here, here, and here. We move all the families to the underground shelters. The mining equipment stays above ground where we can use it. What about the spaceport? Ben asked. That's the key, Jake said. If they control the landing area, they can bring in unlimited troops. We have to hold it. Amy nodded. I'll put my best people there, but we'll need heavy weapons. The mining lasers, Ben said. They're designed to cut through solid rock. They should work on alien armor, too. Dr. Carter looked up from her crystals. I can modify some of these for remote detonation. Plant them around the important areas. When the aliens get close, we trigger them. Jake felt a mix of pride and fear as he watched his people plan their defense. They were not soldiers. They were miners, scientists, teachers, and families. But they were learning to be warriors. What about the civilians? Dr. Hughes asked as he joined the group. The children, the elderly, the injured? Underground, Jake said. The old mining tunnels go deep. They'll be safe there. For how long? Dr. Hughes pressed. We don't have enough food and water for 12,000 people to hide underground for weeks. Then we better win quickly, Amy said grimly. Over the next 2 days, the colony transformed completely. The mining equipment was moved to defensive positions around the outer edges. Heavy excavators were turned into mobile weapons platforms. Industrial lasers meant for cutting ore were repositioned to fire at incoming ships. Ben worked with teams of engineers to connect the underground tunnels. The passages that once carried mining equipment now carried people and supplies. Hidden exits were built throughout the colony, allowing defenders to appear and disappear like ghosts. Dr. Carter made breakthrough after breakthrough with the quantum crystals. She learned to make small ones explode on command, creating weapons that could be thrown like grenades. The larger crystals were placed in key locations around the colony, ready to be triggered if the aliens tried to take those areas. Amy organized the civilian population into support roles. People who had never held weapons learned to load ammunition and carry messages. The colony's communication system was expanded so that every defender could stay in contact with the command center. The most important change was in the people themselves. Fear was replaced by determination. Panic gave way to planning. The humans of New Haven had made their choice, and now they were committed to it completely. On the morning of the third day, Jake received an unexpected communication from the alien ships. Human Commander, the harsh voice of War Prime Kethvor, crackled through the speakers. My sensors show you are not evacuating. They show you are building defenses. Jake picked up the microphone. That's right, we're staying. There was a long pause. When the alien spoke again, he sounded confused. This is not logical. You cannot win against the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds. No species has ever defeated us in battle. Then I guess we'll be the first, Jake replied. Another pause. You do not understand. We will destroy your entire colony. Every human will die. We understand perfectly, Jake said. But we're not leaving. The communication went dead. Jake looked around the command center at his people. They were all staring at him with a mixture of fear and pride. Well, Ben said quietly, I guess there's no going back now. Dr. Carter was studying her instruments. The alien ships are moving. They're taking positions for orbital bombardment. Amy was already on her radio, alerting the defensive positions. All units, prepare for incoming fire. Take cover and wait. For orders. Jake watched the screens as the alien ships arranged themselves above the colony. Each one was larger than any building in New Haven. Their weapons could level the entire settlement in minutes. Why aren't they firing? Ben asked. Dr. Carter was running calculations on her computer. They're scanning us, trying to figure out what we're doing. What do you mean? Jake asked. Think about it from their perspective, she explained. Every other species they've conquered either ran away or surrendered immediately. We're doing something they've never seen before. We're standing our ground against impossible odds. Amy came back to the table. All defensive positions are ready. The civilians are in the underground shelters. We're as prepared as we can be. Jake looked at his friends, his family, his people. In a few hours, the most powerful military force in the galaxy would try to destroy their home. They had improvised weapons, desperate plans, and the determination to never give up. It should have been hopeless. But as Jake looked around the command center, he realized something important. The aliens might have superior technology in numbers, but they had never faced anything like human stubbornness. Dr. Carter, he said, how long before those quantum crystal weapons are ready? The small ones are ready now, she replied. The big ones need another few hours. Ben, how are the tunnel systems? Complete. We can move people and supplies anywhere in the colony without being seen from above. Amy, how are our people? Amy smiled for the first time in days. Scared, determined, and ready to fight. Jake nodded. Then let's show these aliens what happens when you threaten a human home. The screens showed the alien ships beginning their descent toward the planet's surface. Landing craft were launching from the larger vessels, filled with troops ready to take the colony by force. But as the aliens approached New Haven, they were about to discover something that their intelligence reports had never prepared them for. They were about to learn that humans had a very different idea about what it meant to lose. The first shots of the Battle of New Haven were minutes away. 12,000 humans were about to face an empire that had never been defeated. But they were ready. They had spent 3 days turning their peaceful colony into a fortress. They had transformed their mining equipment into weapons of war. Most importantly, they had transformed themselves from settlers into defenders. The aliens expected the humans to run. Instead, they were about to get the fight of their lives. The first alien bombs fell at exactly noon on the third day. Jake felt the ground shake beneath his feet as explosions rocked the colony's outer edges. The war had begun. All positions, report. Amy's voice crackled over the radio from the main communication center. Mining Station 7 is gone, came the first reply. Direct hit. Storage Facility 12 is burning, said another voice. Workshop area is damaged, but still functional. Jake watched the tactical display as red dots marked the areas under attack. The aliens were targeting what they thought were military installations. But Jake's people had been smarter than that. The real defensive positions were hidden underground or disguised as civilian buildings. They're hitting the decoys, Ben said with satisfaction. Just like we planned. Dr. Carter was monitoring her instruments. The landing ships are approaching the main spaceport. 5 large transports, each carrying about 1,000 troops. Amy, are your people ready? Jake asked. As ready as we can be, she replied. Hidden positions around the landing area are armed and waiting. The alien landing ships touched down with thunderous roars, their engines scorching the landing pad that human hands had built 8 years ago. Massive doors opened, and the first Zephyrian soldiers stepped onto human soil. Jake had never seen a Zephyrian before. They were tall and thin, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons looked deadly, designed for killing at long range. Everything about them screamed of military efficiency and overwhelming power. 5,000 troops, Amy reported, moving in formation toward the colony center. Let them come, Jake said. Stick to the plan. The plan was simple but desperate. Let the aliens advance into the colony, then hit them from positions they couldn't see or predict. Use the mining tunnels to move around without being detected. Make every street a battleground and every building a fortress. The first surprise came when the Zephyrian troops reached the colony's outer buildings. What they expected to find were cowering humans waiting to surrender. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. Where are they? Jake could hear the confusion in the alien commander's voice over the intercepted communications dot. The answer came from underground. Ben had positioned mining charges throughout the area, connected to the old excavation tunnels. When the aliens reached the center of the trap, he triggered the explosives. The ground erupted beneath the alien troops. Buildings collapsed. Carefully planned explosions sent dirt and debris flying through the air. When the dust settled, nearly a quarter of the landing force was gone. First blood to us, Amy said grimly. But the aliens were quick to adapt. Their remaining troops spread out, using their advanced sensors to search for hidden enemies. They began to systematically destroy every building, every possible hiding place. That's when the second surprise hit them. Dr. Carter had spent days placing small quantum crystals throughout the colony. Each one was connected to a remote trigger. As the alien troops moved through the streets, she began setting them off. The explosions were different from normal bombs. The quantum crystals created bursts of pure energy that could punch through alien armor like paper. Each blast took out several enemy soldiers and left craters in the ground. Their armor isn't stopping the crystal weapons, Dr. Carter reported excitedly. We can actually hurt them. Jake felt a moment of hope. Maybe they actually had a chance. That hope died quickly when the orbital bombardment began in earnest. Alien ships above the planet opened fire with weapons that could level mountains. Buildings that had taken years to construct were vaporized in seconds. They're targeting the residential areas, Amy said, her voice tight with anger. The civilians are underground, Jake reminded her. They're safe. But our homes aren't, Ben said quietly. Jake watched on the screens as the colony he had helped build was systematically destroyed. The park where children played was now a smoking crater. The school where they learned was nothing but rubble. The hospital where Dr. Hughes had saved so many lives was gone, but the destruction had an unexpected effect on the human defenders. Instead of breaking their spirit, it made them angry. These aliens had come to their home and were destroying everything they had worked for. It was time to fight back. The battle for the spaceport became the turning point. Amy led a group of 50 defenders in a desperate attack on the alien landing area. They came up through the maintenance tunnels, appearing suddenly among the enemy ships. The humans had turned their mining equipment into weapons of war. Heavy excavators modified with armor plating charged into battle like ancient tanks. Industrial lasers designed for cutting ore sliced through alien vehicles. Construction robots programmed for building became machines of destruction. We've taken the eastern landing pad, Amy reported, but we can't hold it for long. You don't have to hold it, Jake replied. Just give Dr. Carter enough time. While Amy's people fought for control of the spaceport, Dr. Carter was preparing her masterpiece. She had taken the largest quantum crystal they had found and turned it into a bomb powerful enough to destroy an entire city block. Jake, I need you to clear everyone away from landing pad 3, she said. At least 500 meters. What are you planning? He asked. Something that's either going to save us or kill us all, she replied. Jake gave the evacuation order. Human defenders pulled back from the central landing area, leaving it to the aliens. The Zephyrian troops, thinking they had won, began to consolidate their position around their ships. Dr. Carter waited until the maximum number of enemy troops were in the target area. Then she triggered the largest quantum crystal bomb ever created. The explosion was visible from space. The entire landing pad disappeared in a ball of pure energy that turned night into day for several seconds. When the light faded, there was nothing left but a glowing crater where the alien ships had been. Landing pad 3 is gone, Amy reported. In amazement, along with about 2,000 enemy troops and most of their equipment. Jake felt a surge of victory, but it was short-lived. The aliens still had overwhelming numbers, and now they were angry. Incoming transmission, Bobby announced. War Prime Kethfor's voice filled the command center, but now it was filled with rage instead of confidence. Humans, the alien leader snarled. You have destroyed my troops. You have damaged my ships. This insult will not be forgiven. Then come down here and do something about it, Jake replied. I will, the alien said. I am bringing my entire fleet to bear against your pathetic colony. You will burn for what you have done. The transmission ended, and Jake looked around the command center. His people were tired, wounded, and running low on supplies. Half the colony was destroyed. They had hurt the aliens, but at a terrible cost. How many enemy troops are left? He asked Amy. She checked her reports. Maybe 3,000. But they're calling in reinforcements. How many reinforcements? Ben asked. Dr. Carter was monitoring the alien communications. 20 more ships, each carrying 1,000 troops. Jake did the math. 20,000 fresh enemy soldiers against. Perhaps 1,000 human defenders. It was hopeless. But as he looked around the command center at his friends, his family, his people, Jake realized something important. It had been hopeless from the beginning. They were never supposed to win this battle. They were supposed to lose, but they were still here. They were still fighting. They had proven that humans could hurt the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Maybe that was enough. Maybe showing the galaxy that the Empire could be fought was worth the price they would pay. All right, people, Jake said. We've bloodied their nose. Now let's see how much more damage we can do before they put us down. Amy smiled. Grimly, I've still got a few surprises left. Ben nodded. The tunnel system is intact. We can keep fighting from underground. Dr. Carter held up another quantum crystal. And I've got more of these. Jake looked out at the burning colony that had been his home. The aliens thought they had won. They thought the humans were finished. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The reinforcements arrived like a storm of death from space. 20 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace, each one bristling with weapons and filled with fresh troops. Jake watched from the underground command center as landing craft descended toward New Haven. They're not taking any chances this time, Amy observed. Looks like they're landing troops at 12 different locations around the colony. Dr. Carl Hughes limped into the command center, his medical coat stained with blood from treating the wounded. We've got 43 dead and over 200 injured, he reported grimly. The underground medical stations are overwhelmed. Jake felt the weight of command crushing down on him. Every death was his responsibility. He was the one who had chosen to fight instead of flee. He was the one sending these people to their deaths. Jake, Ben called from his position at the engineering station. I've got an idea that might help, but it's dangerous. Everything we're doing is dangerous, Jake replied. What do you have? Ben pulled up a schematic of the colony's power systems. The geothermal plant that powers the colony. If we can overload it, channel all that energy into a single directed beam, we might be able to hit their ships in orbit. What would that do to the colony? Jake asked. It would destroy the power plant and probably take out several city blocks, Ben admitted. But it might also take out one of their big ships. Dr. Carter looked up from her quantum crystal experiments. The power levels would be incredible. If we could hit their command ship, it might disrupt their entire battle plan. Jake considered the option: sacrifice part of their own colony to strike at the enemy. It was exactly the kind of impossible choice that defined this entire battle. Do it, he decided, but evacuate everyone from the power plant area first. While Ben worked on his desperate engineering project, the battle raged above ground. The new alien troops were better prepared than the first wave. They had learned from the mistakes of their dead comrades. They came equipped with sensors that could detect the underground tunnels. They carried weapons designed to collapse hiding places. Amy coordinated the defense from her position in the old mining control center. Her radio crackled with reports from defensive positions throughout the colony. Tunnel entrance 7 is compromised, came one voice. They've found our hidden access point. Residential Sector 5 is under heavy attack, said another. We're falling back to secondary positions. The aliens are using some kind of gas weapon, reported a third. It's forcing people out of their shelters. Jake listened to the reports with growing despair. The humans were fighting bravely, but they were being pushed back on every front. The aliens had too many advantages. Better weapons, better armor, better numbers. Jake, Dr. Carter called urgently. You need to see this. She had been monitoring alien communications throughout the battle. Now she was staring at her instruments with a mixture of fear and excitement. What is it? Jake asked. The aliens are talking to each other, she said, and they're confused. They don't understand why we're still fighting. Jake frowned. What do you mean? Dr. Carter played back a recorded alien transmission. Even through the translation software, Jake could hear the frustration in the alien voices. These humans make no sense, one alien was saying. They cannot win. They must know. They cannot win. Why do they continue to fight? Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the situation, replied another. No, said a third voice. They have weapons that can hurt our ships. They have tactics that surprise us. They are not primitive. They are something else. Dr. Carter stopped the recording. Jake, I think we're fighting something more than just a battle here. We're fighting their understanding of how war works. Before Jake could respond, the ground shook with a massive explosion. Ben's voice came over the radio, tight with excitement. It worked. The geothermal weapon is online. I've got a clear shot at their command ship. Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien command vessel was hanging in space directly above the colony, coordinating the attack. It was the largest ship in their fleet, and destroying it would be a major victory. Take the shot, Jake ordered. The beam of energy that erupted from the colony's power plant was visible even in daylight. It shot straight up into space like a pillar of fire, striking the alien command ship with the force of a small sun. The massive vessel staggered in space, its hull glowing white-hot where the beam struck. For a moment, Jake dared to hope that they had destroyed it completely. Then the ship's shields flared to life, absorbing the energy. The beam sputtered and died as the power plant overloaded and exploded, taking 3 city blocks with it. Damage report? Jake called. Their command ship is hurt, Dr. Carter reported, but not destroyed. However, the power plant explosion took out a lot of their ground troops in the surrounding area. It was a small victory, but Jake would take anything he could get. The battle was far from over, but they had proven once again that humans could hurt the mighty Zephyrian Empire, the alien. Response was swift and brutal. Orbital bombardment rained down on the colony like deadly rain. Buildings that had survived the earlier attacks were vaporized. The carefully constructed defensive positions were destroyed one by one. "They're targeting the tunnel entrances," Amy reported. "They're trying to trap us underground." "Then we go deeper," Jake decided. "The old mining shafts go down nearly a kilometer. They can't bomb us if they can't find us." The evacuation to the deeper tunnels was a nightmare of desperate running and falling debris. Families carried their wounded through passages that had been designed for mining equipment, not human refugees. The elderly and injured were helped along by volunteers who risked their own lives to save others. Dr. Hughes worked tirelessly to treat the wounded in makeshift medical stations deep underground. "We're running out of medical supplies," he reported. "And some of these people need surgery that I can't perform down here." Jake made another impossible decision. "We'll have to leave the seriously wounded in the deep tunnels. The rest of us will keep fighting from the intermediate levels." As the battle entered its second day, Jake realized that they were no longer fighting for victory. They were fighting for time, for dignity, for the right to die on their own terms. Every hour they held out was another hour that the galaxy could see that the Zephyrian Empire was not invincible. Dr. Carter had managed to create a dozen more quantum crystal bombs from their remaining supplies. "These are the last ones," she said. "After this, we'll be down to conventional weapons only." "Then we better make them count," Amy replied. The final alien assault began at dawn on the fourth day. War Prime Kethver himself led the attack, his personal guard of elite troops surrounding him as he advanced into the heart of the colony. Jake and his remaining defenders made their last stand in the colony's central plaza, the same place where families had once gathered for celebrations and children had played in the artificial fountain. Now it was a battlefield, scarred by explosions and littered with debris. "All units, fall back to final positions," Jake ordered. "This is where we make our stand." Amy positioned her remaining security officers around the plaza's edges, armed with the last of their modified mining equipment. Ben had rigged explosive charges throughout the area, ready to bring down the surrounding buildings if necessary. Dr. Carter stood beside Jake, her final quantum crystal bomb in her hands. The alien forces approached slowly, cautiously. They had learned to respect human ingenuity and desperation. War Prime Kethver himself was visible among them, his ornate armor marking him as their leader. "Humans," the alien leader called out, "you have fought well. You have earned the right to surrender with honor." Jake stepped forward, his voice carrying. "Across the ruined plaza, we didn't fight for honor. We fought for home." "Your home is destroyed," Kethver replied. "Your people are dying. Why do you continue this pointless battle?" Jake looked around at his friends, his family, his people. They were dirty, wounded, and exhausted. But they were still here. They were still fighting. "Because we're human," Jake said simply. "And humans don't give up." The final battle was about to begin. But as Jake faced the alien leader in the ruins of his colony, he realized that they had already won something more important than victory. They had shown the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds. The final battle began with a silence that seemed to stretch forever. Jake stood in the center of the ruined plaza, facing War Prime Kethvar, across 50 meters of broken concrete and twisted metal. Around them, the last defenders of New Haven, crouched behind improvised barricades, while thousands of alien soldiers took positions throughout the destroyed colony. "This is your last chance, human," Kethver called out. "Surrender now and I will allow your survivors to leave this world alive." Jake looked around at his people. Amy crouched behind the remains of the old fountain, her rifle trained on the alien leader. Ben was hidden among the rubble of the colony's administrative building, his finger on the detonator for the final explosive charges. Dr. Carter stood beside Jake, holding the last quantum crystal bomb they had managed to create, We've come too. Far to quit now, Jake replied. New Haven stands. Cathfer raised his weapon, a massive energy rifle that could cut through steel. Then New Haven dies. The battle erupted with devastating fury. Alien weapons unleashed beams of deadly energy that turned concrete to vapor and metal to liquid. Human defenders responded with modified mining lasers and improvised explosives. Their weapons crude but effective. Jake dove for cover as energy bolts seared the air around him. The plaza filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Explosions shook the ground, and the sound of weapons fire echoed off the ruined buildings. Amy, report! Jake shouted into his radio. We're holding the eastern side. Amy's voice crackled. Back, but barely. They've got us outnumbered 20-1. Ben's voice joined the conversation. I can bring down the buildings around the plaza. It'll trap some of their troops, but it'll also cut off our escape routes. Do it, Jake ordered. We're not escaping anyway. The explosions that followed brought down 3 buildings around the plaza, crushing dozens of alien soldiers under tons of concrete and steel. But it also trapped the human defenders in a circle of rubble with nowhere to run. Doctor Carter was working frantically with her quantum crystal bomb. Jake, I can overload this crystal to create a massive explosion. It'll take out everything in a 3-block radius. Including us, Jake pointed out. Including us, she confirmed. But it'll also take out Cathvar and most of his command staff. Jake looked around the battlefield. His people were fighting bravely, but they were dying. One by one, the human defensive positions were being overrun. They had maybe minutes before the aliens overwhelmed them completely. Dr. Carter, he said quietly, how long do you need to prepare the bomb? 2 minutes, she replied. Maybe 3. Amy, Ben, all units. Jake spoke into his radio. Hold them back for 3 more minutes. Whatever it takes. What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy as the most desperate 3 minutes in human history. Amy led a suicidal charge against the alien troops advancing from the east, buying precious seconds with her life and the lives of her security team. Ben triggered his remaining explosives in carefully timed sequences, collapsing more buildings and creating chaos in the alien ranks. One by one, the human defenders fell. But each death bought Dr. Carter another few seconds to work on her quantum crystal bomb. With 1 minute left, Jake found himself face to face with War Prime Cathvar in the center of the plaza. The alien leader had fought his way through the defensive lines, leaving a trail of human dead behind him. You have cost me more soldiers than any enemy I have ever faced, Cathvar snarled. For a species that should have fled in terror, you have proven remarkably stubborn. Jake raised his weapon, knowing it was useless against the aliens' advanced armor. We protect what's ours. And what is yours is now mine, Cathvar replied, leveling his energy rifle at Jake's chest. The shot never came. Dr. Carter appeared behind the alien leader, the quantum crystal bomb in her hands. The device was glowing with unstable energy, ready to explode at any moment. Get away from him, she ordered Cathvar. The alien spun around, his weapon tracking toward the scientist. You would not dare. The explosion would kill you as well. Doctor. Carter smiled grimly. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? She triggered the bomb. The explosion that followed was unlike anything ever seen in galactic warfare. A quantum crystal released all of its stored energy in a single, devastating burst that turned the center of New Haven into a miniature star. The light was visible from space, brighter than the planet's own sun. When the energy finally dissipated, a perfectly round crater marked the spot where the plaza had been. War Prime Cathvar was gone, vaporized along with his command staff and several hundred of his elite troops. Dr. Carter was gone too, her sacrifice having dealt the Zephyrian Empire a blow it had never experienced before. Jake found himself at the edge of the crater, thrown clear by the explosion, but badly injured. Around him, the surviving human defenders emerged from the rubble, amazed to still be alive. "Is he dead?" Amy asked, limping toward Jake with her arm in an improvised sling. Jake looked into the glowing crater where their friend had made her final stand. "They're all dead." Kethvar, his command staff, probably half his remaining troops. Ben appeared from behind a collapsed wall, covered in dust but otherwise unharmed. "The alien communications are going crazy. They don't know what to do without their leader." Over the next hour, something unprecedented happened. The Zephyrian fleet, leaderless and demoralized, began to withdraw from New Haven. Some ships fled immediately, their crews unwilling to continue a battle that had already cost them so much. Others lingered in orbit, uncertain about their next move. "Incoming transmission," Bobby announced from the portable communication equipment he had managed to salvage. But this time, the voice wasn't Zephyrian. It was human. "New Haven, this is Captain Steve Parker of the Earth Defense Force Cruiser Liberty. We received your distress signal. Are you still there?" Jake grabbed the microphone with shaking hands. "This is Commander Morrison. We're still here, Captain. Barely, but we're here. Stand by, Commander. We're not alone. It seems word of your battle has spread throughout the galaxy. You've got help coming." Over the next few hours, ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of other species. The Andrari sent medical frigates. The Kelton Republic dispatched engineering vessels. Even the mysterious Void Runners emerged from hyperspace to offer assistance. "What's happening?" Jake asked Captain Parker when the Earth officer finally made it down to the surface. Parker looked around at the devastated colony, then at the small group of human survivors who had held off an entire empire. "Word of your battle reached Earth 3 days ago. Then it spread to the other worlds. Every species that the Zephyrians have threatened or conquered heard about a little human colony that refused to run away." Jake felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. "We lost so many people." "You saved so many more," Parker replied. "The Zephyrian Empire is falling apart. Rebellions have started on a dozen conquered worlds. Their fleet is scattered, their leadership is dead, and their reputation for invincibility is shattered." Ben joined them, his engineering tablet showing reports from around the galaxy. "The Kelton Republic has declared independence from Zephyrian rule. The Andrari are mobilizing their defense fleets. Even some of the smaller species are standing up to their local Zephyrian governors." Amy limped over, supported by 2 Earth medics. "So we won?" Jake looked around at the ruins of New Haven. The beautiful colony they had built was gone, destroyed in the fighting. Hundreds of his people were dead, including Dr. Carter, who had sacrificed herself for victory. The cost had been enormous. They were still here. They had stood their ground when everyone expected them to run. They had faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy and proven that it could be defeated. "Yeah," Jake said quietly. "We won." The epilogue came 6 months later. Jake stood in the same spot where the colony's plaza had once been, but now it was the center of a vast construction project. New Haven was being rebuilt, but this time it was more than just a human colony. Representatives from 40 different species were working together to create something new, a defensive alliance, dedicated to protecting smaller worlds from aggressive empires. The quantum crystals that had once been weapons of desperation were now the foundation for a new type of defensive technology. Dr. Carter's sacrifice was memorialized in a monument at the center of the new plaza. Her final words were carved in dozens of languages. "You really don't understand humans at all, do you?" Amy had taken over as the colony's new security chief, training representatives from other species in human defensive tactics. Ben was leading the reconstruction effort, Building the new colony to be both a home and a fortress. Jake remained as commander, but his role had changed. He was no longer just governing a mining colony. He was helping to coordinate the defense of dozens of worlds against future threats. Any regrets? Amy asked him as they watched the sunset paint the alien sky in familiar shades of purple and gold. Jake thought about the question seriously. They had lost so much in the battle for New Haven. Friends, family, their original home. The price of standing their ground had been higher than anyone could have imagined. But they had also gained something precious, the knowledge that no enemy, no matter how powerful, was unbeatable if you were willing to fight for what mattered. No, he said. Fina,